Your home for our Atlanta Falcons, Hawks, and Atlanta United. Your teams play here. Sports Radio 92.9, The Game.
Atlanta! We're 1-0. We can't lose in week 1 to Carolina. And we didn't. It's Dukes and Bell on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game. We start off every day and every hour by saying, hey, man. We are psyched because there's half the NFL today that are talking about L's. The other half are talking about dubs. We happen to be the other half. And for Mike and I, we've been talking about this for the last 2 seasons. Since Coach Art got here, we've been talking about, starting the season 0-2, not getting off to a good start. We are 1-0, and I just want that to soak in for a second before we get into particulars of what we thought about yesterday and where this team is. Because we know, Mike, this team has growing to do, but so does every team around the NFL. Every team has some growing to do. So let's just take this in, okay, absorb it, and understand that this team is going to continue to get better. Our quarterback will continue to get better. The run game will continue to get better. There's a lot to work on. But, Mike, it feels good to wake up on a Monday, and we always say this. And as a matter of fact, Mike said it for weeks. If we didn't lost this game, you weren't going to show up, yes. And you're here.
I was going to call Dr. Daniel. Can I get some more hair? Maybe today be the good day, maybe about another 1,000. Hey, man, it was, look, we said, and look, I go through this every single Falcon weekend. If you're new to the show, you'll get used to us doing this. We kind of go through it's not like the 6 days, like 3 stages. Because at the time when you're in the stadium, sometimes you don't know exactly what's going on. If there's an angle you didn't see on the replay, or somebody got injured or something happened. So once I get a chance to get home, after I've cooled down a little bit, I look at the videotape and I say, okay, well, what happened? And you see that, hey, they posed some really, really difficult matchups for us on the D-line. Offensive line really struggled. And we'll get into the nuts and bolts of it. But at the end of the day, we got our first win in opening day in a minute. We're for over 500. It's both cool and kind of pathetic, Carl, that we've been like half a decade and we haven't been over 500. But let's focus on the positive. Bijan, stud. Jesse Bates, rock star. And when we finally got the ball to Pitts, he makes an unbelievable catch.
He did.
Well, let's start with the stuff that happened that was good.
Good. Heck of an adjustment but by Pitts. And I'm screaming, Pitts, finally. But, the one thing that I will say about yesterday's game, and this is something we've talked for about 3 years now, when is this defense going to be stout? Right. Guys, you hold any NFL team to 10 points, and I'm not making excuses, and I won't for Carolina. I don't care about Carolina. I said this. I like Bryce Young. I think he's going to be a good quarterback in this league. But I didn't think he was going to be a good quarterback yesterday, and he wasn't. He turns the ball over twice, but let's give the defense their props. Mike, we got stops. I thought the 4th and 1 to start the game, down there in our own territory, set the tone for the rest of the day. And to see guys get excited and be emotional, and then you start making plays, and all of a sudden this defense is rolling. This is what we've been waiting on. Everybody said, well, how good is the defense going to be? I'm getting texts from around the country, guys going, man, defense looks good. Yes. We spent money. We have better players.
Right.
And, Mike, I think this is the one thing. If we can be in games and our defense plays like this, and I think they have the potential to play a lot better, guys. It's week 1. We're going to be okay.
Right. We saw that Carolina offensive line get whooped up by the Jets on Hard Knocks, and we thought, well, maybe that's going to be real easy. Get me a good win for – no. They were definitely, they saw it, they heard about it, they made corrections, they were good. Their offensive line gave us some tough time. We couldn't get, let's be honest, we got those stops, but we couldn't get real heat on the quarterback until we started doing some blitzing. And then eventually we saw Trey Anderson, 44, got in there with a big key play. But there'll be things to get back to the drawing board on. And we already talked about our offensive line battling against their D-line. Look, McGarry, that's why I was kind of lukewarm on his deal. But they like him in the system, so they paid him. I didn't overpay him. I thought that Bergeron did a hell of a job. Already talked about, hey, Mac Hollins. We told you Mac Hollins was going to contribute. Already did. Now, we can get into, here's a question I have for you to start. Was it a matter of they didn't have faith in our quarterback, Arthur Smith, or didn't have faith in the offensive line to allow the quarterback to make the plays the fans wanted to see? Because he was getting beat up in that first half.
All right, so I'd ask you this. Did Green Bay have faith in Jordan Love, who only threw the ball and completed 15 times? 15 to 27. Did Cincinnati have faith in Joe Burrow, who only threw it 31 times and completed 14 passes yesterday? They lost. Did Seattle have faith in Geno Smith? They paid him in the offseason. He only had 16 completions yesterday. It's week 1. I think We're going to see him work into the job, Mike, grow into the job, and I get it. We all want – look, nobody wanted to see more of Desmond Ridder, and I've said this all offseason. You guys know this. It's Dukes and Bell at Sports Radio 92.9 The Game. We can't protect him. Art can't protect him. At some point, he's going to have to throw it and sling it around the yard, Mike. But yesterday, when you look around the league and Dak Prescott's team wins by 40 and he only completes 13 passes, what are we talking about? Like, what are we talking about? Daniel Jones' his team gets crushed last night. He only completed 15 passes. So Ridder goes 15 of 18. He had a terrible drop by Drake. So in essence, yesterday he missed twice. What are we talking about? He missed twice. There are a bunch of quarterbacks and name brand quarterbacks around the league who have similar stats, whose team either won or lost. Our guy won. So I understand the growth and development that we're all looking for and how bad it felt maybe in the first half and then it looked different in the second. But what do we say, Mike, about the running game? With Algier and Bijan, this is what's going to open up a lot of this stuff. And again, Mike mentioned it. The O-line, first half, guys, we gave up 4 sacks in that game. Right. O-line's got work to do.
Now, I hear what you're saying. I'll just kind of make it a fine point on that. I just thought, if you didn't watch the game, you're going, well, that's like game manager stuff. And I just thought my only beef with Arthur was, and again, this goes back to, we'll ask him on Wednesday, did you not have any faith in the offensive line that you could have him drop back and try to let some of those plays down the field develop? Because before halftime, that was coaching super conservative. They basically kind of, well, maybe we'll move the chains, but you were basically playing not to let them back on the field. So you instead of being aggressive and putting the ball in Ridder's hands, you didn't. And I didn't like it when they settled for the field goal on a 3rd and 5 where they just run Bijan off tackle and they don't let your quarterback. Because again, why do we here's the only caveat to that argument is, why do we draft Pitts? Why do we draft London if we're going to simply go into a shell when there's moments where there's some plays to be made? That's my beef. It's only week 1. Hopefully it evolves. But to me, it just seemed like you were really protecting your quarterback, either from himself or you didn't think the line could do the job, or a little bit of both.
Matthew Stafford won a Super Bowl. He didn't have 0 touchdowns yesterday. I mean, what are we talking about? I hear you. Mike, I have no explanation, nor would I sit here and tell everybody, because it was my pet peeve yesterday, why Drake London was only targeted 1 time. I can't answer that. But guess what? We'll be at Flowery Branch on Wednesday, and we'll get a chance to talk to Coach Arthur Smith. Right. And we'll ask him that question. And if it was the flow of the game, or he wasn't necessarily as big a part of the game plan, whatever it might have been, I'm not going to sit here in Atlanta and tell you guys I know, because I know. It bugged the hell out of me yesterday that the guy that really showed out last year and who we believe is the number 1 wide receiver was not involved the way he should have been. But think about the other side of that. We still won by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, and you took the game over in the second half. And look, a rookie quarterback, as we predicted last week, was going to do what rookie quarterbacks do, even if he is a Heisman Trophy winner. He was, and by the way, thank you very much for throwing those balls away. He was sailing stuff. He had guys open. He was overthrowing receivers. Again, there's a learning curve for everybody. Peyton Manning came in here in 1998 and looked terrible. So, I mean, it happens for everybody. But we're talking about a W, and it feels good. And as Coach Smith said in the postgame call, we don't apologize for winning a game.
No. And that's the part you guys have to understand. If we were 0-1 right now, the phone lines would be fully lit. And you'd be telling us how the season is a disaster. We're 1-0.